we must show appreciation for how good Randall K. Orton is at this pro wrestling thing. I mean, this Randy Orton, after all the years that he has been doing this, and let's talk about this, okay? How many people are able to maintain a character that really, while he goes through waves and ebbs and flows, if you look at Randy Orton, he's still the dude that we call the Viper, with those same trunks on, going by the same name, with the same move, and he has been doing this literally since Evolution was a faction. He has been doing this since Ric Flair was still wrestling. He has been doing this since before Batista retired and then came back and then retired again and is now going into the Hall of Fame. Randy Orton still stands strong. And he's still able to take us on these rides where we actually care. And while sure, he's slipped away for pockets of time here and there, he's never been gone for an extended period of time. He's never disappeared for years, only to come back and everybody goes, I remember. He has been there the entire time. It is much more difficult to accomplish what Randy Orton has accomplished without giving the fans years to miss you. He isn't even an ounce of a nostalgia act. This is a guy who is able to get fans interested in what he is doing based on what he is doing today, not based on anything he has ever done in his past. And it is remarkable to see. In 2020, the end of 2019, I would have said that it would have been very difficult to convince me that a good guy Randy Orton was going to be something I cared about. When Randy Orton got drafted to Raw in October, I was like, really? I thought, foolish as I was, that Randy Orton was kind of just getting to this place where he had accomplished everything he needed to accomplish in his career. And he could go out there and when needed, still have a good match, put a young guy over, and enter that phase of Randy Orton. And that phase is very important. And I don't disrespect anybody that gets into that phase. But that phase is not necessarily the active storyteller phase. That phase is not the phase of who knows where this career is going. That phase is we know where this career has gone. Now let's do some cool stuff to put a bow on it. Randy Orton is not putting a bow on it. Randy Orton is still going. I didn't think anybody, including myself, would care about Randy Orton being a good guy on Monday Night Raw. He gets drafted, and the character starts to change, and he's a good guy all of a sudden. And what was even more all of a sudden was the fact that I looked at that man's face on my television set, and I cared about what he was saying, and I cared about what he was doing. And I said, damn you, Randy Orton, you got me again. After all the years of all the dirty, underhanded things that you've done, I believe in you, Randy Orton. You got me again. He goes this year into the Royal Rumble. We talked about it a little bit on Monday. He's face-to-face with Edge. And I'll tell you this, when Rated RKO started working together again, I was excited about it. I was pumped for it. I was here for it. The little moment when Randy is in his Viper position behind Edge, ready to RKO him, and Edge turns around like, dude. And Randy Orton gives him that look like, hey, buddy, what do you want from me? I'm sorry. He was basically giving him the old Scorpion and the Frog look, where Edge was the frog that was carrying the scorpion on his back. And the scorpion stung the frog. You could tell the story with a snake as well. But the scorpion stung the frog when they got to the other side. The frog said, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "Because I'm a scorpion. That's what I do." Randy Orton gave Edge this look. He said, "I'm a viper. It's what I do." Edge feigned forgiveness, only to eliminate Randall by throwing him over the top rope and onto the floor. Edge would go on not to win the Royal Rumble, but we would turn on Raw not 24 hours removed, with the excitement building all night. That tonight we were going to hear Edge's words into a microphone. Now, we should also take a moment to talk about how good Edge is. If you are somebody that is a young professional wrestler or that cares at all about the art of storytelling in wrestling, pay attention to Edge. Because Edge's story had already been told before his mouth hit a microphone. And that's not a compliment to the wonderful broadcast team at the WWE. That is a compliment to everything that exists on Edge between his hairline and his chin. All over his face. When Edge walked into the Royal Rumble and he looked around, Edge hadn't wrestled in 9 years, okay? Look into the audience of the WWE. Kids are everywhere. Even adults that are in there. People in their 20s. They weren't watching 9 years ago. There were thousands and thousands of people that were watching the Royal Rumble on Sunday night that were not watching wrestling when Edge was wrestling, that did not quite understand why, when the immortal words of "You think you know me" echoed through Minute Maid Park, that crowd gave him the ovation of a lifetime. Who is this guy? But when Edge walked through the fog and he looked around and you saw that look on his face that said, "Oh my God." After 9 years, after being told I would never wrestle again, after telling the world I would never wrestle again, I can't believe that I'm here and that everybody still remembers. I can't believe that they all still care. And I can't wait to show all these people what I am capable of doing in 2020. All of it was said on his face before he even got to the ring. Once he was in the ring and you saw the shape that he was in, you saw his face throughout the entire match. You knew who this guy was and the mission that he was on. Edge told the total story. If you had no commentary throughout the match at all, you would still know Edge's entire story watching that because of Edge's performance. And you would understand the friendship and the tension between Randy Orton and Edge because of the way they worked together in that match. It was a thing of pro wrestling beauty. So when Edge comes out on Raw and the WWE does this wonderful, wonderful job of building and building and building throughout the night, airing clips of Edge moments, the reaction from last night, the reaction from the Royal Rumble, over a decade before when he returned, the reaction from Edge cashing in, becoming the ultimate opportunist in 2006 and cashing in his Money in the Bank and beating John Cena. I believe in the middle of the first decade of the 2000s, Edge is the number one heel. And it's because of that moment and everything that happened after that moment. So we now have this clear-cut picture of who Edge is, and Edge comes out, and everything that he is saying on Raw on Monday is backed up by his face, by his body language, by his emotions. There is not an ounce of inauthenticity that comes off of this guy. You believe everything this guy is saying. All of a sudden, a song comes on about a man whose voices in his head counsel him and understand and talk to him. Randy Orton comes out, and because of the expressions on the faces and the words that are said, you feel like you're seeing something special. You're feeling like even though Edge eliminated Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble, and even though Edge sensed that Randy Orton was going to RKO him at the Royal Rumble, there is this appreciation between these two veterans that have lived entirely different decades. Edge, who over the last 9 years has been at home, becoming a family man, living a life outside of the world of wrestling. And Randy Orton, who never left and spent those 10 years building and building and building a legacy in the WWE that won't fully be appreciated until he's gone. There was a camaraderie, there was a familiarity, there was a friendship in the faces of Edge and Randy Orton that made it hurt that much more when, whoom, that RKO came out of nowhere. And you might have known, of course, Randy Orton's going to turn on Edge. Of course, we're leading to a Randy Orton-Edge match. And you might be saying, Sam, you know that they were leading to a Randy Orton-Edge match. If you listen to your podcast that you taped immediately after the Royal Rumble, even when people were emailing you saying, is it going to be Edge and AJ Styles? You said 2 hours after the Royal Rumble match was over, clearly, we're heading towards a Randy Orton-Edge match. And I understand that. And you can know that that is probably where things are going without knowing how we're getting there. You can know the destination without printing out the MapQuest directions for it, okay? You don't have to look down at your GPS screen. You can trust the driver and just look out the window and watch the ride and go, oh, I didn't expect to pass this. That's what we got on Raw. And the body language of Edge. First of all, to have Randy Orton, who has made us believe in him. Randy Orton turned babyface good guy. And the crowd believed him. The crowd was behind him. To have that man come out on Monday Night Raw and crush Edge's skull. We just spent 3 hours of a TV program explaining to everybody that didn't know that Edge went away because of his neck and spine. Edge came out and said he got a second neck surgery. Well, welcome back. I'm going to crush your head and neck with a steel chair. Hope you're good. The legend killer who became a legend is still killing legends. The legend killer realized that superstars from his generation are the ones that had become legends. And that doesn't mean that he's above destroying them. I mean, talk about a fine how do you do. That's Edge's, aside from the Royal Rumble, first physicality on Monday Night Raw. We're going to crush your head between two chairs. Hope you're ready for this. And I mean every bit of it. I believed. And listen to the audience. All you have to do is listen to the audience. The same audience that had been cheering Randy Orton for the last 2 months, every one of them was booing him. You know how difficult it is in 2020 to introduce a story to an audience, and as soon as the first chapter is closed, you're cheering for the right person and you're booing the right person? You know how difficult that is? As a writer, as a performer, it seldom happens anymore because everybody is so smart. Everybody is so smart and so knows exactly what's going on that even when it's the exact story that they want, they still want to show their appreciation for the bad guy and just cheer him. Or if there's one misstep that makes it not quite believable, or one flaw in the storytelling that makes it not quite right, so ready to boo the part where you're supposed to be cheering. But it didn't happen, man. Edge is not performing like a man who's been gone for 9 years. And Randy Orton is not performing like a man who's putting a bow on his career. Edge and Randy Orton are performing like they stepped out of 2009 and just fast forwarded to 2020. And we haven't seen the match. Who knows what will happen? But it's amazing. It's been amazing to see their performance in the Royal Rumble leading to their performance on Raw. Many times, Raw is a 3-hour show. It is a very long show. Many times after Monday Night Raw, I go to bed and I have a feeling in the pit of my stomach. I don't like when wrestling doesn't live up to my standards. Professional wrestling is the first passion in my life, first love in my life. It's aside from my parents and aside from my siblings, professional wrestling is the thing that I've cared about in my life longer than literally anything else. Because there's nothing in the entertainment world on this planet that is better than good pro wrestling. And that's why when I get through a 3-hour episode of Monday Night Raw, and at the end of it, I'm feeling either meh or bleh, I have a pit in my stomach. I don't sleep well. I sit there going, come on, guys. Really? There's so many reactions you can have. Meh and bleh. But at the same time, and this is how I know, I'm the exact same fan that I've always been. When I get a finish, like we got on Monday Night Raw this week, and that's what I see when I turn off my TV at 11 p.m. and some overrun, 11:07 maybe, I'm jazzed, man. I feel the energy. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we've got a story. Coming off of Monday Night Raw, I knew, just like many years in the past, starting with the Royal Rumble and heading into WrestleMania, this is going to be a fun ride. And what really drove that home was that Edge versus Randy Orton segment. I badly want to see Edge versus Randy Orton. And when Edge came back at the Royal Rumble, I said, I don't really want to see Edge versus Randy Orton. To myself, I said that. I said, I like Randy Orton. I like Edge. I've seen Edge versus Randy Orton. You know what I haven't seen? Edge versus Seth Rollins. Edge versus Roman Reigns. Edge versus Kevin Owens. Edge versus Samoa Joe. Edge versus Baron Corbin. Edge versus Daniel Bryan. There are a lot. Edge versus The Fiend. Edge versus Brock Lesnar. There's lots of Edge matches that I haven't seen that the last 9 years have made a compelling case for. However, the segment on Raw where Randy Orton crushed Edge's face was so good that it made me realize that none of those compelling cases can hold a candle to the case of what about Edge versus Randy Orton? Edge versus Randy Orton has become the match that I want to see. And I have full faith that between now and WrestleMania, the desire amongst me and all the other WWE fans is only going to get raised and raised and raised and raised. And that's because of the faith that Randy Orton and Edge both gave to me on Monday Night Raw. Now, of course, we don't know, and thank you for allowing me my, however long that was, 20 minutes to appreciate Randy Orton, but we don't know. We don't know, Sway. We don't know for sure that match is happening at WrestleMania. Keep in mind, Super Showdown is happening at the end of February, I believe. And one would have to believe that Edge is going to have a match at Super Showdown. You could make a strong argument that Edge should not have a match before WrestleMania. You could make a very strong argument that what's going to make the Randy Orton-Edge match special is it's Edge's first singles match back in the WWE. And, depending on what you read on the internet, first they said Edge has signed on to do this many matches and this many TV appearances, but depending on money, now they're saying that could be wrong. It could be this. It could be that. Nobody knows. Come on. Nobody knows. They just heard this, maybe that. Nobody knows what Edge's schedule actually looks like. And maybe it's a little up in the air. But if he does have a match at Super Showdown, I would hope that between now and then, Randy Orton makes a friend with somebody, and that's the person that Edge faces. I do not want to see I want to see Randy Orton versus Edge at WrestleMania. My preference is to see Edge's first match back versus Randy Orton. I think the way you do this beautifully is you have Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania, Edge's first match back in WWE. And, over the next couple weeks, play it up like we don't know if we're going to see Edge back. That already fragile neck of Edge's was horribly brutalized by one Randy Orton. We don't know if we're going to see him back. But eventually we'll get there, and eventually he will be back. I mean, maybe you even have Randy Orton have a match at Super Showdown and have Edge interfere. Have Edge go all the way to Saudi Arabia just to do the run-in and spear Randy Orton, and that's the first time you've seen him since the Royal Rumble, you might have something there. And then spend the month between February 27th and WrestleMania 36. That's the month that you spend building Randy Orton versus Edge. Probably the way I would do it to get the most bang for your buck out of everything. I would then have Edge's second match be the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. I would have Edge wrestle at WrestleMania and then have him wrestle again the Monday after WrestleMania. And that's not to say, hey, world, Edge is going to be wrestling on Raw every single week, but it lets the world know that Edge is back in WWE. He's not just here for WrestleMania season. And it really drives home, hey, guys, this is the Raw after WrestleMania. This is it. Because I don't know what the tradition is going to be for SmackDown coming off of WrestleMania. Now that SmackDown is back to Fridays, I can't see the SmackDown after WrestleMania being that big of a deal. It seems like, because, the way you're looking at it is WrestleMania weekend, I wonder if they're going to turn WrestleMania into a 2-day show. It's a 5-day show. You're looking at WrestleMania in Tampa as as Hall of Fame, SmackDown, TakeOver, WrestleMania, Raw. So I would think that the SmackDown before WrestleMania is going to become the big SmackDown of the year. And the Raw after WrestleMania is going to maintain and continue to be the big Raw of the year. I would think. That makes sense to me. But that would be where I would put Edge's second match. I would have Edge have a singles match, or maybe even a tag match because it's Raw, on the Raw after WrestleMania. And then go from there. If Edge's dates are limited, keep him off TV for a while and bring him back April, May, bring him back for Money in the Bank. That would really be interesting. If you had Edge wrestle at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, wrestle the Monday after WrestleMania, and then come back to announce he's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, the guy who made the Money in the Bank briefcase famous, Edge, to me, still the most famous Money in the Bank briefcase holder of all time. I would say Edge, then Seth Rollins, then Braun Strowman. I'm just kidding. Edge, Seth Rollins, then maybe CM Punk, maybe RVD after that. That's where you can start, and maybe we will have that conversation closer to Money in the Bank. But I think that would be the move to make.